the cold winds of the north blew over Winterfell, whispering stories of war, honor, and blood. But in this version of the tale, young Arya Stark's path took a different turn, one not shaped by shadows and death, but by steel, oaths, and the proud weight of knighthood. Arya never met Jaqen H'ghar. She never went to Braavos, never walked the halls of the House of Black and White, and never learned to become... Instead, she remained in Westeros, hidden under the care of a loyal bannerman, after escaping King's Landing following her father's execution. She didn't lose herself in the darkness of vengeance. She found a different purpose. While wandering alone, dressed as a boy and carrying needle, she came across Sir Garland Tyrell, brother to Sir Loras. Garland, known for his kindness and skill in battle, was moved by Arya's courage and the sadness in her eyes. He offered her shelter and food, expecting nothing in return. Arya, full of fire and stubborn pride, challenged him to a duel instead. Amused, Garland accepted. She lost, of course, but she impressed him. "You fight like a wolf," he said, offering his hand. "Let me teach you how to be a knight." At first, Arya laughed. "Girls can't be knights," she said bitterly. "Rules are written by men," Garland replied. "But courage doesn't care what you are." That night, Arya stared at the stars and remembered her father's words. "You might be a lady," he once said, "but that doesn't mean you can't fight." Maybe she could be something else. Something no Stark girl had ever been before. And so, she trained. While the War of the Five Kings raged on, Arya lived in secret with Garland at a small Tyrell outpost, far from the eyes of the Lannisters. She trained with sword and shield, learning the code of honor, learning to protect, not just to kill. She still remembered her List Cersei, the mountain, Walder Frey, but her focus shifted. Revenge began to fade. Duty took its place. Arya grew strong. Her style was unlike any other. She didn't fight with the weight of a knight's armor, but with the grace of a dancer and the speed of a wolf. She became known among the soldiers as the Wolf Knight, even though no one but Garland knew her true identity. Years passed. Then came news that shocked Arya to her bones. Robb Stark, her brother, had been murdered at the Twins. Her mother, too. The Red Wedding. Arya's hand trembled as she held the letter. Garland watched her carefully. "You want to ride north?" he asked. "No," Arya whispered. "I want to fight." "No," Arya whispered. "I want to fight." The fire of vengeance returned, but it burned differently now. It didn't want blood for blood. It wanted justice. Arya swore an oath, right there in front of the old gods and the new. She would ride north, reclaim her home, and serve her people as a knight of Winterfell. She would be more than a ghost seeking revenge. She would be the sword that guarded the realms of men. Garland handed her a white cloak. "You earned it," he said. "Not by name, by heart." Arya Stark, the girl who had once chased cats through the halls of Winterfell, now rode under a banner not of shadows, but of honor. Her sword was not hidden. Her face was not masked. She was no longer a girl with no name. She was Ser Arya Stark of Winterfell, and her journey was just beginning. Arya rode north with fire in her veins and a sword on her back. The roads were broken and cold, littered with the dead and the desperate. War had turned the realm into a graveyard, and the banners of old houses lay torn and forgotten in the mud. But Arya wasn't afraid. Not anymore. She wore no shining armor. Her cloak was white, but her clothes were worn. Her horse was tired, and her coin pouch nearly empty. But her name, her true name, her strong enough. Arya Stark, daughter of Ned Stark, and now a knight sworn to justice, not vengeance. Her first stop was a village near the Neck, where rumors spread like firewood under storm. A Bolton man had taken control, calling himself Lord, ruling the small folk with cruelty. Arya stayed quiet, watched from the shadows. She saw a child beaten for stealing bread, a mother dragged into the woods by soldiers, and old men left to starve in locked homes. That night, she took out her sword, not needle, but a new blade gifted by Garland, made of castle-forged steel. She wrapped her cloak around her shoulders, tied her hair back, and walked into the tavern where the Bolton men laughed with bloody teeth. "I heard your lord likes to steal from children," she said, voice calm. The room went quiet. The soldiers turned, confused at the young girl standing alone. "Who are you?" one asked. She stepped forward. "I am the wolf you forgot, and the wolf you forgot, and I don't forgive." They laughed. For a moment, then she moved. Her sword danced like smoke and snow. She didn't fight like a knight from songs. She fought low, fast, deadly. She broke knees instead of shields, cut throats instead of banners. One by one they fell, cruel men with cruel hearts. In the morning the village woke to silence. The Bolton flag was burned, the lord tied to a tree, weeping. Arya gathered the people. "You are free now," she said. "Winterfell still remembers you." An old woman wept and kissed her cloak. The young boy asked, "Are you a knight? Are you a knight?" Arya looked at him and nodded. "I am, but not the kind who hides behind walls." Word spread fast of a girl knight riding north, cleaning the lands of those who used power for pain. Some said she was a ghost, others a Stark risen from the dead, but all agreed on one thing: she was hope. The first hope the North had felt in years. By the time Arya reached Moat Cailin, she was no longer alone. Farmers, orphans, old soldiers all followed her, not for glory, but because she made them believe that justice could still live in the North. At Moat Cailin, she faced her biggest challenge yet. The stronghold was held by 100 Bolton men, commanded by a brute named Sir Valin, known for burning entire families to root out rebellion. Arya rode to the gates with her ragtag army behind her. The men laughed when they saw her, this little girl in a white cloak and dirty boots. "You think you can scare me?" Sir Valin shouted. "You're no knight." Arya removed her cloak, revealing her sword. "You're right," she said. "I'm a Stark." And she charged. The battle was brutal. Arya led from the front, cutting through lines with speed and fury. Her people fought like wolves, angry, hungry, wild. Sir Valin reached her in the chaos and struck hard, breaking her arm with a blow. But Arya didn't stop. She fell to one knee, rolled beneath his swing, and drove her blade into his gut. Then she looked him in the eyes. "For Robb, for my mother, for the North." She twisted the blade. By nightfall, Moat Cailin belonged to the people again. Arya stood above its walls, a bloodied knight, her white cloak torn but still shining in the moonlight. The North had its sword back, but Arya knew the real battle waited ahead. Winterfell, where Ramsay Bolton ruled with a home wrapped around his filthy hands, and she was going to take it back. Snow fell heavier as Arya stood on the walls of Moat Cailin, her injured arm wrapped in blood-soaked cloth. She didn't flinch. Pain meant nothing now. The cold, she welcomed it. This was the North, her land, and Winterfell, her true home, was still in the hands of monsters. Ramsay Bolton. The name alone made her jaw tighten. A bastard who wore her brother's crown. A sadist who hunted women for sport. And worse, he called himself Lord of Winterfell. Every day he sat in her father's chair was an insult carved into her soul. Her people needed a Stark. Arya had no banners, no knights in golden armor. But what she did have was loyalty. The kind that couldn't be bought. The kind that couldn't be bought. The kind that grew in snow and blood. The villagers she freed now rode with her. Farmers, thieves, old soldiers, mothers with fire in their eyes. They didn't need horns or drums. They followed a girl in a torn white cloak with a sword that never rested. Word reached her before the snowstorm. Ramsay had heard of the Wolf Knight and laughed. He even sent her a message delivered by a boy with one ear missing. "A gift from Lord Bolton," the boy whispered. In the sack was a wolf's head. Not a dire wolf, but still a warning. Arya stared at it, then threw it into the fire without blinking. "He thinks I scare easy," she said, tying her hair back. Let him keep thinking that. She didn't attack Winterfell like a knight would. She hunted it. At night, her people slipped through the woods around the castle. They took out supply lines, burned carts, poisoned food stores. Arya herself crept into the outer villages dressed as a washerwoman, listening, learning, mapping every guard rotation, every secret tunnel, every weakness. Inside Winterfell, people began whispering, "The Wolf Knight is real. She's here. Starks walk again." Ramsay laughed at first, then grew angry, then afraid. He doubled his guards, had servants whipped, lit fires around the castle to chase the shadows away, but Arya had learned patience from Garland. This wasn't about rage, it was about striking when it hurt the most. Then she found her chance, a feast. Ramsay was planning a celebration, flaunting his power, mocking her brother's death. Arya smiled coldly. "Let him drink," she said. "Let him dance. Let him think he's already won." The night of the feast, Arya entered through a forgotten tunnel, once used by her brother Jon to sneak outside. Her white cloak was gone, replaced with a black one. Her sword was wrapped in leather, her movements silent as a snowflake. Inside, Winterfell was lit with fire and foul music. Ramsay sat on her father's chair, drunk on wine, barking orders, laughing. He wore a fur cloak stolen from a dead lord, and on his table lay a direwolf's pelt grey and familiar. Arya's eyes burned. She slipped into the great hall, dressed as a servant. No one looked twice. She poured wine, carried meat, moved through the room like a shadow. And when Ramsay leaned back, laughing at his latest horror how he fed a man to his dogs for speaking of Starks, Arya struck. Her blade slid clean through his chest. He didn't scream at first, just looked confused. Then she whispered in his ear, "Winterfell is mine. You were only keeping it warm." She twisted the sword and pulled it free. Chaos exploded. Soldiers screamed. Wine spilled like blood. Arya leapt onto the table, her blade dripping, her eyes wild. "The North remembers," she shouted. "The Starks are not dead." The villagers she had snuck inside as servants drew hidden blades. The people of Winterfell, tired of fear, tired of Ramsay, rose with them. In the courtyard her army strones in. The gates had already been unbolted from inside. It wasn't a battle. It was a cleansing. By dawn, the flayed banners were torn down. The wolf of House Stark flew again. Arya stood in the godswood, her hand on the old heart tree, whispering to her father. "I didn't take vengeance," she said. "I took justice. I took back our home." She didn't sit on the Lord's chair. She left that to her brother Jon, now marching south with the Night's Watch. Arya had no interest in ruling. She was a knight, and there was still work to do. Winterfell was hers again, but peace had not yet come. The walls were cleaned, the floors washed of blood, the flayed man banners burned to ash. Yet Arya didn't rest. She couldn't. She stood on the battlements in silence, watching the snowfall, knowing something still pulled her beyond the walls. Trouble always had a way of finding the Starks. That night, a raven came. The letter was sealed with black wax bearing a strange mark, half lion, half sun. Arya frowned. This wasn't from the north or from Jon. It was from the Riverlands, where war still lingered like smoke. The letter was short, written in a shaky hand. "The Brotherhood rides again, not for the people, but for coin. They have hanged children, Arya Stark. They wear no faces now, only masks. Their leader claims to speak for the old gods, but he drinks the blood of the living. They have taken our village. Please, help us." It was signed by a name she hadn't heard in years, Gendry. Her heart twisted. Gendry, the blacksmith boy she'd once escaped King's Landing with. The boy who made her laugh, who had called her mole lady just to annoy her. She'd left him behind to chase a path of death. Now, he was the one in danger. Arya packed that very hour. She wore no sigils, no banners, only her sword, her cloak, and a mind sharpened by years of pain and war. The North tried to stop. Her villagers begged her to stay. Soldiers swore they would die for her. But Arya only said one thing. "I swore to protect the people, all of them." And she rode. Through icy forests, across frozen rivers, through villages where crows circled the skies like omens. The Riverlands were rotting. No king ruled here now. Only warlords, bandits, and worse pretenders. The Brotherhood without banners had once been protectors. Now, they were something else. Gendry's letter hadn't lied. Arya saw burned homes, bodies strung from trees, and fear in every child's eyes. Then she found a survivor. A girl, no older than 10, hiding in a stable. Her arms were bruised, her dress torn. Arya knelt beside her and asked softly, "Who did this?" The girl looked up, tears in her eyes. "They wore black. with red hands painted on their chests. They said the gods told them to punish the weak. They killed my brother, hung him upside down. Arya's grip on her sword tightened. She gave the girl her cloak, built a fire, and fed her from her own pack. "You're safe now," she whispered. But she knew what had to be done. She tracked the Brotherhood to an old village near a broken bridge. Fires burned in every house. Masks covered their faces, grotesque, twisted, bone-white. They spoke like priests, but their swords were wet with blood. Their leader stood tall, dressed in a red and black robe. He wore no mask. Arya saw his face clearly, and her blood froze. It was Thoros of Myr, or what was left of him. His eyes were glassy, his skin pale, but he moved with life, too much life. The fire priest who once raised men from death had now become something else, something kept alive by forbidden rites. He drank from a chalice filled with dark red liquid, and the men bowed to him like a god. "We are the god's flame," he roared, "and all shall burn who disobey." Arya stepped forward from the shadows. "You've fallen far, Thoros." The priest turned, his eyes lit with something like recognition but twisted. "Arya Stark, the faceless wolf, I wondered when you'd come." "I didn't come for you," she said. "I came for Gendry," she said. "I came for Gendry." Thoros laughed. The bastard boy. He tried to challenge me. He failed. He's hanging now right beside the bridge." Arya didn't answer. She ran, through the fire, past the guards cutting them down like whispers. Her blade moved faster than their eyes could follow. She reached the bridge and saw him, Gendry, hanging by his wrists, beaten, barely breathing. She cut him down, caught him as he fell. He looked up at her, blood on his face. "I knew you'd come," he whispered. Arya turned, facing the flames and the horde of masked men charging toward her. Her sword gleamed in the firelight. She whispered to herself, "I am not no one. I am Arya Stark. I am a knight of the North." And she charged. The fire roared behind Arya as she stood between Gendry's broken body and the masked horde charging at her. She could barely hear her own breath, only the thundering of boots, the clash of steel, and the chants of those twisted followers. "Blood for the fire! Burn the non-believers!" They moved like animals, wild and unthinking. But Arya, she was ice. Cold, focused. The first man lunged at her with a spiked mace. She ducked low, swept his legs, and drove her blade through his gut before he even hit the ground. The next came with twin axes. She sidestepped, slashed across his neck, and used his body to block two more. The blood sprayed, but she didn't blink. This wasn't just survival. This was rage, righteous, burning rage. Behind her, Gendry coughed weakly. He was still alive, but barely. She had to finish this fast. The horde slowed now, afraid. She stood alone, blood dripping from her sword, eyes like shadowed steel. "You call yourselves holy," she spat. "You murder children and worship a corpse." Thoros stepped forward. His skin was sickly, and the fire in his cup glowed an unnatural red. He smiled like a rotting god. "We are reborn in fire, girl, just like you. You left death behind. And now, pretend to be a knight?" He raised his hand, and his followers roared behind him. "There is no justice, only sacrifice." Arya raised her blade. "Then start with me." They rushed, but this time she didn't fight alone. A horn blew loud and strong. From the woods behind came the sound of galloping hooves and howling wolves. Arya looked back in shock. Stark banners, real ones. Jon. He rode at the front with Ghost by his side, blade drawn, black cloak flapping behind him. The men of the Night's Watch and Northern Loyalists crashed into the Brotherhood like a hammer. Arrows flew. Steel clashed. Wolves tore through masked zealots. Arya let out a breath but didn't stop. She turned back toward Thoros, who was retreating into the flames. "You run now," she shouted. He turned, still grinning. "I already burned once, girl. I'll rise again." She chased him into the burning village. The fire was everywhere, devouring wood and flesh alike. Thoros moved like a phantom through the smoke, vanishing and reappearing with that red flame in his hands. Arya coughed. eyes burning, heart pounding. He struck first, swinging a chain wrapped in flame. It caught her shoulder, searing through her cloak and skin. She screamed but kept her grip. Pain was nothing now. She had bled more than this in the dark halls of war. He came again. This time she ducked under and stabbed up into his ribs. But he didn't fall. He laughed. His blood was thick and black, like tar. "I cannot die," he whispered. "Not while the fire drinks souls." Arya stepped back, thinking fast. Then she saw it, the chalice, the cursed cup he drank from, the source of whatever kept him walking. She ran toward it as he screamed, "No!" He tackled her mid-run, slamming her into the dirt. His hand closed around her throat, her vision blurred. "You could have been a god, Arya. You had death in your blood. But you chose honor instead." Arya's fingers scraped through the dirt, found a shard of glass from a shattered lantern, and drove it into his eye. He howled and fell back. She rolled to her feet, grabbed the chalice, and hurled it into the fire. It shattered. The flames roared and Thoros collapsed, his body twitching, then still. The red light in his chest flickered and went out. Arya stood over him, panting, smoke rising around her. Her shoulder burned, her throat ached, but she was still standing, and she had ended, a monster. Outside, the last of the Brotherhood had been cut down or scattered. Jon rushed into the burning house and pulled her out before the roof collapsed. She didn't say anything, just looked at him with tired, grateful eyes. Later, as Gendry recovered, Arya sat alone by the river, her blade resting across her lap. Jon approached. "You didn't have to come," he said softly. "Yes, I did," she replied. "The North isn't just castles and walls. It's people. If I wear this cloak," she touched the edge of her white knight's cloth, "then I fight for all of them. Even the ones who've already lost everything." Jon nodded. "You're not just a knight, Arya. You're what we needed all along." But Arya wasn't listening anymore. She was staring south, because she knew evil didn't stop in one village. There were darker things moving, and Arya Stark wasn't done yet. Arya didn't rest long after the battle. Gendry healed slowly. Jon returned north to hold Winterfell, and the Riverlands tried to rebuild. But Arya? She was already preparing for the next storm, because something about Thoros' words haunted her. "You left death behind, and now pretend to be a knight." What did he mean? At night, she dreamed of the House of Black and White, of faces she never wore, of death that still followed her, even though she'd walked away from it. She had chosen the path of light, but the shadows hadn't let go. Then came the stranger. She found him one morning, just outside a burned village on her way south, a man in black robes, standing over a pile of graves. His face was hidden, but his voice was smooth like silk and ice. "You killed Thoros," he said calmly without turning. Arya reached for her sword. "He was a monster. Is that your judgment to make knight?" the man asked, finally turning. His face was pale, too pale, like it was carved from wax. "Do you think abandoning the many-faced god frees you from his gift?" Arya froze. She knew that voice. Jaqen H'ghar. He hadn't aged. He looked exactly as he did the day he left her in Braavos. Only now, there was something colder about him. "Imtie. I'm not one of you anymore," she said. "I chose my own path." He walked toward her slowly. "A debt is still unpaid, Arya Stark. You took from the hall. You trained. You learned. And then you walked away." "I didn't take anything," she snapped. "I left the coin. I left the name." "You left alive," Jaqen said darkly. "And no one leaves alive." Arya tightened her grip on her sword, heart pounding. "Then come for me." He didn't attack. He smiled instead. "I won't, but she will." Arya didn't understand until she looked behind him. Out of the woods came a girl, no older than 20. Her face, it was hers. Not similar, not close. It was exactly Arya's face. Same eyes, same scars, same half smirk, same walk. Only this version wore black armor and carried twin daggers soaked in poison. Arya stepped back, horror crawling up her spine. "What the hell is this?" "She took the face you left behind," Jaqen said softly. The many-faced god doesn't waste his gifts. When you turned away from death, we gave it to someone who embraces it fully." The girl spoke for the first time. Her voice was Arya's too, but colder, emotionless. "I am the true Arya Stark now." "No," Arya growled. "You're nothing but a shadow." But the assassin laughed. "And yet the world will believe me. They will follow me. When I kill in your name, they will praise you. And when I bury kings, they will blame you." Arya drew her sword, furious. "Then I'll kill you myself." But Jaqen raised a hand. "Not yet. She has one task first." "What task?" Arya asked. Jaqen leaned in closer, voice like a dagger in the dark. "She's going to King's Landing." Arya's blood ran cold. "Who's her target?" He smiled. "The Queen." Arya's mind spun. King's Landing was fragile, rulerless after Cersei's fall, barely holding together under new alliances. If someone assassinated the Queen, chaos would explode. War would start again. And with a face like hers doing the killing, every house would blame House Stark. She grabbed a horse and turned south, fast. She had to stop her. She had to stop her. She had to kill her before her own shadow destroyed everything she had bled for. The night rode through rain and mud, hunted now not by enemies, but by herself. And the question burned in her mind, can I truly be a knight if I must kill the ghost I left behind? The gates of King's Landing rose before Arya, like a wound carved into the land. The city was broken, scarred from years of war, betrayal, wildfire, and fire-breathing dragons. But something darker crept through its alleys, now something quiet and deadly. Her, the false Arya, the girl with her face, her voice, her history, and now her mission: assassinate the Queen in Arya Stark's name and let the world fall into chaos. Arya slipped into the city like smoke. No banners, no cloak, just a hood and her sword. The streets were crowded with beggars, whispers, and fear. The Queen Rhaenys Targaryen, a dragon without fire, had taken the throne through fragile peace. She ruled wisely, but she was young, unprotected, and Arya knew how easy it was to kill a queen, because once she almost did. She made her way to the Red Keep, using tunnels, long-forgotten paths she had memorized as a child on the run. She passed the halls where her father had died, the stairwells where her sister had cried, the very floor where Sandor Clegane once stood between her and monsters. Now, she was the one chasing a monster. Now, she was the one chasing a monster. She found her first clue in the servants' quarters. A dead maid. No blood, just a single coin placed over her eyes. The mark of the many-faced god. The assassin was here. Arya moved faster. She reached the throne room just before dusk. The Queen stood before the Iron Throne, not sitting on it, just staring, as if still unsure whether she deserved it. Arya remembered that feeling. Power never fit comfortably on good people. And then the other Arya appeared. She dropped from the rafters, silent as a cat, twin daggers drawn. Her face, Arya's face, was calm, focused. She stepped toward the Queen like a shadow. Arya acted on instinct. She leapt between them, steel ringing against steel. The Queen screamed, stumbling back as two Aryas clashed in the middle of the throne room. Guards rushed in but froze, uncertain which one to strike. It was chaos. Steel flashed, blades whirled, and for a terrifying moment it looked like Arya was fighting her own reflection. "You're faster than I expected," the assassin whispered, pushing against her blade. "And you're dumber than I feared," Arya growled. They circled each other like wolves, one raised in honor, the other in death. They fought not just for a life, but for the truth of who deserved the name Arya Stark. "I'm stronger," the assassin hissed. "I never hesitated. I don't feel." "That's your weakness," Arya replied, her voice cold. "You're empty." Their swords clashed again. The assassin landed a cut across Arya's ribs, but Arya didn't back down. She remembered every face she'd spared, every soul she'd protected. Gendry, Jon, the people of the Riverlands, her own family. She wasn't fighting for the future. With a sudden move, she disarmed the assassin, flipping her to the ground and driving her sword inches from her throat. "Do it," the assassin whispered. "Finish it. Be who you were meant to be." But Arya didn't move. She looked down at the face that was hers, the girl who could have been her in another life. Her hands trembled, not with fear but choice. "I am not no one," she said. "I am Arya Stark of Winterfell. I decide who lives and dies. And you don't get to wear my face." She struck not to kill, but to rip the mask free, and beneath it was nothing. A hollow face, a blank, eyeless skin. The assassin gasped, twisted, and then crumbled to ash burned by the very death magic that gave her form. Jaqen had sent a ghost, a cursed imitation, and now it was gone. The guards finally moved, swords drawn, but the queen raised her hand. "No," she said. "She saved me." Arya stood, bloodied, breathless, but alive. "I didn't come to save queens," she muttered. "I came to stop war." Rhaenys looked at her. "Then help me keep the peace." "Stay." Arya shook her head. "I don't belong in thrones and courts. I belong on the road, where shadows still walk." She turned to leave, but paused at the doors. "If anyone ever wears my face again, burn it." And she vanished into the night one last time. But now, not as a Stark hunted by vengeance, not as a girl trained by death, not even as a knight, but as something more, a protector, a ghost of justice in a world still learning to heal.